Summertime is harvest time for all sorts of crops. Grass doesn't look that exciting, but it's vital to Scottish farming. A lot of the animals that we keep for meat or dairy are fed on grass throughout the winter. But grass doesn't grow in the winter, so during the summer, farmers cut grass to make hay or silage. Hay is grass that's been dried and then packed tightly into square or round bales. Silage is grass that's been cut and preserved, and there's basically two ways of doing it. One way is to collect the grass in big trailers. It's then taken to pits where it's packed in tightly. Once it's full, the farmer will cover the pit with plastic. This stops the grass rotting and means it will still be good to eat months later. The other way to make silage is to cut the grass, roll the grass into big round bales, and then wrap the bales in plastic. You can see piles or lines of these plastic-covered silage bales all over the countryside. When the bales are unwrapped later in the year, the plastic is collected for recycling. It can be used to make cattle and sheep pens or gardening products such as raised beds and benches. Silage makes up the biggest part of farm animals' feed across the colder months. If for any reason farmers can't make silage, say it's been a cold, wet summer, then that's a real problem because it means their animals won't have enough to eat throughout the winter. Of course, you can buy silage from elsewhere, but that tends to be expensive. Nowadays, a lot of soft fruit is grown in Scotland, mostly strawberries and raspberries. Most are grown in these big plastic tents called polytunnels. In a polytunnel, the plants get all the sunlight and all the heat, but they're protected from the wind and rain. These plants came from Holland and were planted up on tables in plastic bags full of compost. Being on tables makes them easier to pick as well as easier to look after. 60 days after they've been planted, the strawberries are ready to be picked. An army of fruit pickers from all over Europe come to Scotland for the harvest. A good spring and summer, lots of sunshine, helps the plants to grow. A dull, wet summer means the plants have more problems with fungus and diseases, so they need to treat them with pesticides to keep them healthy. Scottish raspberries are thought to be the best in the world, sweet and juicy. Soft fruit is very easily bruised or damaged, so if it's intended for the dinner table, the kind you eat with cream or ice cream, then it has to be carefully picked by hand. If, however, the fruit's going to be made into jam, then it doesn't really matter if it gets a little bit squished, and so machines can do the job. This machine is working its way through a field of raspberries on the east coast of Scotland. Some fruit is sold by the roadside, but most is sold in shops. In the packing shed, workers sort and weigh the fruit that will end up in your local supermarket. The rows of coloured lights help the workers make sure that every box is the same weight. By mid to late summer, Scotland's fields are full of huge, brightly coloured machines called combines, slowly working their way up and down, chomping up the crops at the front and spitting straw out the back. This is harvest time, and it's magical, worrying and wonderful all at the same time. Growing cereals is all about timing and weather. There's a lot that can go wrong. Cereal farmers grow oats, wheat, barley and oilseed rape. Barley is by far the most commonly grown cereal in Scotland. The seed head grows in the end of a long stalk. The combine cuts down the whole plant and separates the seed from the stalks. The seed is then transferred to a tractor and trailer. Back at the farm, the trailer unloads the barley into a big hopper. From there, it's transferred into a huge storage shed. Sometimes the barley has to be dried before it's stored. This barley is going to be used for making whisky. It's known as malting barley. All the other barley is used to feed animals in the wintertime. But even this malting barley will be used as feed. Once the whisky makers have taken what they need from the barley, it goes back to the farmers to be mixed in with their winter cattle feed. Remember, in Scottish farming, practically nothing is wasted. Even the barley straw, which was left behind the combine, is gathered up and baled and used for either feed or bedding. Other crops that you might see in the fields are oats and wheat. The best wheat is used for biscuit making, but most goes for animal feed. Oats are very good for you. They're used in porridge and health bars, and maybe not so good for you, biscuits. And of course, there's oilseed rape, that bright yellow plant you see in the springtime. It's crushed for the oil it contains, and even then, the crushed seed pods are used to make animal feed too. Vegetables are a very important part of our diet. Peas, beans, turnips, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, leeks, and Brussels sprouts are all grown in Scotland. Here they are harvesting broccoli. This is a field of cauliflower. Most cauliflower is sold fresh in the shops. Sometimes, if it's a warm summer and people aren't eating as many vegetables, then the crops go to be frozen. Many vegetable crops are harvested by hand. Some crops, peas for example, would just take too long to pick by hand, so these wonderful machines known as pea viners do it instead. Summer is a great time for going for a walk in the countryside. In Scotland, we have what's known as the Scottish Outdoor Access Code. It says that within reason, you can walk anywhere, but you need to be careful. These cows have their calves with them. Like all mothers, cows are very protective, and if they feel their calves are being threatened, they've been known to attack people, particularly people with dogs. When animals have young with them, the best thing to do is to stick to the paths and don't go into fields with farm animals.